I'm Tristan, and this is Thinking About Politics. So today, we're finally getting around to something that's, been a long time coming on this channel. We're tackling something that's a bit of a personal bugaboo of mine. We're going to count down 5 reasons why Massachusetts really ought to change its state flag. Perhaps this is not the most pressing issue in American politics right now, but we just need to change this flag. Got me? And if that sort of thing sounds like your cup of tea, why don't you go ahead, hit the like and the subscribe button. And if not, hit it anyway. You gotta figure it's like good karma or something. Anywho, here we go. Reason number 1. The thing is kinda ugly. This is opinion, but see this state flag here? My first thought is always, what on earth is this sad looking thing? It's a good color combination, the white and the blue, and stars on a flag. Always a good choice. But the blue seal, it's visually confusing. You have this guy hanging out on the shield over here. You have this big old sword swinging above him. And then you went ahead and put Latin on the darn thing. Putting Latin on your flag is needlessly pretentious, Massachusetts. And you are needlessly complicating the lives of elementary school kids everywhere who go ahead and try to draw their state flag and happen to live in Massachusetts. And let's see what this Latin here says. Enes petit placidum sub libertate quietum. I don't speak Latin. Means, by the sword we seek peace, but peace only under liberty. By the sword we seek peace. That's, well, this saying was actually added during the Revolutionary period when Paul Revere redesigned the state seal. He took the native guy off the seal, put a colonial guy sitting there with a sword pointing up. And at the time, it seems like this was clearly directed at the British. But now, out of context, where an actual sword is swinging above the head of some Algonquin guy, seems like an oblique, if none too remorseful, reference to how white settlers, Puritans, separatists, and later immigrants fought multiple battles with the natives here and drove them from the land. And maybe that really brings us into point number 2. Reason number 2, the colonial symbolism. Let's just tick off a couple points here. See that sword? That sword is based on the sword of Miles Standish. Standish was the captain of the Pilgrims' defenses and was hired to come with them to the New World to protect them from, whatever they thought was out there. And so from this perspective, okay, maybe having the sword of Miles Standish on a flag of Massachusetts makes sense. But let's complicate the legacy of Miles Standish just a little bit here. I mean, he was known at the time, in his age, his contemporaries found his tactics to be highly brutal. He would lure war chiefs to meet and discuss things unarmed, and then would show up with arms himself and massacre folks. The Massachusetts tribe at Ponkapog recently said in a statement about getting Standish's name removed from a university building, long celebrated by many as a New England folk hero, Miles Standish is remembered by this land's first peoples for the extreme acts of violence he committed against their ancestors. So if I'm a member of one of the First Nations here, and also a Massachusetts citizen and an American citizen, I don't think I'd feel like my ancestors were being respected with this sword swinging above the head of, like, a depiction of an Algonquin or other native person. Ditch the flag. But then there's this Algonquin gentleman. Let's talk about him for just a second, shall we? What is his deal? Well, the current seal is largely based on one of the first seals for Massachusetts Bay Colony, circa 1629. In this depiction, you see a native standing naked with a little leaf over his private parts there, arrow pointing down. And can you see what he's saying here? Can you see what he's saying? He's saying, come over and help us. Remember, Massachusetts Bay and Plymouth colonies were founded by religious zealots. They had a certain evangelical mission to them, at least in early New England culture. After the Revolution, the seal of the governor looked something like this for a while, until it was redesigned in the 1800s and adopted as the flag in 1908. Now, in the current design, let's point out a couple more things, shall we? The bow is supposed to be an accurate representation of one taken from an Indian who was shot by a guy by the name of William Goodenough in Sudbury in 1665. Notice the belt? This is based on the belt that Chief Metacom, or King Philip, wore. King Philip, who was defeated and beheaded by the colonists in King Philip's War. See the arrow pointing down? Notice how he doesn't have any more arrows? This is a symbol of pacifism or pacification. And then it brings us to this man himself. And really the third big reason why this flag should be retired. Reason number 3. It's racist history. So remember that original seal, naked guy, come over and help us. So the current sigil does not have the come over and help us. Also, it has given the man some clothes. That's mighty nice of them. But at its root, this seal still celebrates those real racist understandings of humanity that were championed by folks like the Puritans and the Separatists. The natives were seen as almost animal to those original colonists, in need of Christian civilization to come and save them. In that context, it makes sense. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I can understand where that's coming from, even though it's wrong. But the current version of this seal that appears on the flag was redesigned in 1898 by a guy by the name of Edmund Garrett. Garrett wanted to keep the American Indian as the symbol of Massachusetts to symbolize, where we got our name from and the history of the people who the land used to belong to, in his words. So the man in the shield is not really any individual, but it is, presumed to be an Algonquin. I guess nobody really knows that for sure. Now, the proportions of his body are based on the skeleton of an American Indian that was found in Winthrop, Mass. But the head is actually based on the head of a man by the name of Chief Little Shell, of the Little Shell Band of Chippewa Indians in Great Falls, Montana. Note, Montana, not Massachusetts. Portrait was selected because, according to Garrett, he was a fine specimen of an Indian. Ew. That's icky, right? It's not just me? Does anybody else hear those facts and think, gosh darn, there must be something that must be done? Well, you're not alone. Because, reason number 4, people want to change the flag. There's already a movement in the state trying to get people to reconsider the state seal and the flag. One resource I used for this video was changethemassflag.com. This source noted that State Rep. Byron Rushing has submitted legislation every 2 years to create a commission to recommend changes to the seal and the flag. And this may have worked because on January 11th, 2021, the governor of Massachusetts signed into law a bill creating that special commission to recommend changes to the state seal and study a potential revised motto. The commission originally had a deadline for October 1st, 2021. Obviously, they missed that deadline. I don't know what's happening now as the recording of this video in November 2021. But regardless of what the commission might recommend with regards to the seal, the fact that enough people are wanting this type of review shows that people aren't really happy with the flag. And who can blame them? There are plenty of awesome candidates just waiting in the wings. Reason number 5, better alternatives. Now, there are a ton of flag designs out there that would be great for a new Massachusetts flag. I've had one picked out for a while, and I'm going to champion that one in just a second here. But to show how even-handed I am, I'm going to leave a link in the comments below where you can find a wiki showing a bunch of different designs that people have come up with. Most of them are going to be better than what we have now. But my pick for the new flag of Massachusetts is the Battle of Bunker Hill flag. Let me set the scene for you. The British had blocked down Boston Harbor from 1774, and in April 1775, gunshots had rung out in Lexington and Concord. A month later, patriots in Boston got word that the British were going to occupy the hills north of Boston to control the harbor. William Prescott and 1,200 other colonial militiamen went and took Breed's Hill and built fortifications under cover of darkness. When the British awoke, they found that the hills were already occupied by the colonists. On June 17th, the British forces attacked the Americans on Breed's Hill in what Wikipedia tells me was the first major battle of the American Revolution. The colonists were smaller in number, they had less ammo, but they were fighting for their home. They were fighting for their liberty. They were able to repel the British not just once, but twice. As the story goes, as the men ran low on ammunition, the commanders told their men not to fire until they saw the whites of the enemy's eyes coming up Breed's Hill. This was their battle flag. It was stolen from like a British maritime flag, maybe. And you see up here, this cross is the cross of St. George, prominent on a lot of British flags. But up here, in this top corner, the colonists affixed this picture of a pine tree. For New Englanders of that day, the pine tree symbolized freedom. It symbolized liberty. Think of the Tree of Liberty. They pinned this tree on that flag and made it their own, just like they would make this country their own. But it would take some time, because this is not really the story of some great victory. It's actually the story of a defeat, because by the third time the British charged up, they were able to eject the Americans from their positions. But by holding off as long as they had, by inflicting as many casualties as they had, those men on Breed's Hill showed that the British could be defeated. The British army was not invincible. The British may have won the victory, but it cost them an awful lot. On that day, the patriots of Boston watered the tree of liberty with their own blood. And that's just great symbolism. What's a flag about, if not history and symbolism, huh? So if you're from Massachusetts, let me know what you think. Are you interested in trying to change your flag? What do you think of the Battle of Bunker Hill flag? Let me know in the comments below. And that's going to be it for me. You've been great. Hope to see you again next time, but until then,
I ain't got time to kiss you now, I'm busy